And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 197. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey, joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good morning.
And our special guest, our brother from another mother, Matt, Scotian Canadian. Welcome to the show, bud.
What's going on, fellas? It's good to see you guys again. Thanks for having me.
It's been way too long.
Yeah. It's always a blast jumping on and chatting with you fellas. It's too bad Treg couldn't make it today, but the next best two are here. So
yeah, we'll try and send you the selfies direct as opposed to
perfect.
Everything.
Okay, thank you.
So today's episode, we're going to cover a little bit about the 0-5 start because, we kind of have to. But there's a few things in there that people may find interesting. So why don't we just kick it off with how the NHL tried to screw the Canadians out of a power play goal because part of Gallagher's butt was in the crease. So being a guest, Matt, you give her.
I don't know, man. I couldn't believe they called that. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can believe they called that back. Just it had to do everything with the nameplate on the back of the jersey. There's nothing that can convince me otherwise. And I mean, I don't know. I don't see where the credibility is there, where the consistency is. I mean, it's one thing to argue about a chintzy bit of contact in the crease, but when his both feet are outside of the crease and Freddie Anderson did not fight for the space whatsoever, there was minimal, if no contact. And anyway, I just can't believe it. And I was fired up. I was so angry. And then I'm thinking to myself during intermission, and I had the French feed, so I couldn't see the interviews. And I'm thinking, God, I really hope Gallagher sounds off. And I figured maybe that would happen post game. And but at the same time, I'm just so used to him being a pro's pro, just being that guy that doesn't make excuses, just says the right things. And but I was thinking, how can he not say something at this point? And sure enough, he ended up doing it. And what was it that he said?
So he was talking to John Lou between periods on TSN, and he said, and I quote, 9 out of 10 people can watch it and say it's a good goal. The problem is that one person is always there in Toronto. Nailed it.
Yeah. He nailed it.
And
has there been a fine yet?
No word on a fine yet, but I fully expect one.
Yeah.
However, when that came out and people started sharing that quote, what I noticed was there was a ton of Leaf fans bitching and moaning, saying, calling him a whiner and whatnot, and complaining that, everyone thinks it's our fault or that we have. No, you're not connected to the office in Toronto. No one's saying that. I'm sure there's goals that the Leafs have scored over the last couple of years that they're scratching their heads over that make no sense why they would have been called back.
Right.
It's the office. That war room is trash.
Yeah. And I don't know, and we don't necessarily have to get into it whether or not they favor the Leafs or not, and not us, but it doesn't really matter. But mind you, literally, I think it was the night before or 2 nights before, Michael Bunting scored the only goal for the Leafs against who was it they went to overtime against?
The Rangers.
And lost. The Rangers. Yeah. So Bunting scored a goal. He literally, I don't know if you guys saw this, he kicked the goaltender, Shesterkin, into the net before the puck was in. Kicked his pad right in it, and the goal counted. I'm not sure if Rangers challenged it or not, but I remember tweeting out, like, if that's Gallagher, that gets waved off without the coaches even having to challenge in the first place. I couldn't believe it. And then sure enough, a night or two later, see what happens to Gallagher. It's unbelievable that the guy I don't get why Brendan has this reputation as a dirty player or a guy who's trying to hurt goalies or whatever. He just challenges the tough areas. He goes into the spaces, he works hard that no one else wants to go to, and he continues to go there. And I can see how it'd be frustrating for the opposition. And I can see how officials are constantly seeing him in that area, tangling up, causing shit. But at the same time, there's never intent to injure. There's never he always makes an effort to avoid the goaltender in my eyes. And it's just this, he doesn't draw penalties, if ever,
No.
despite getting his ass kicked every night, cross-checked, thrown around. And then he's getting goals called back all the time. I don't understand it.
Yeah, he's constantly having this issue, and then they crack down on cross-checking. That's the big thing right now, is a crackdown on cross-checking. If you come within 2 feet of someone with your stick even remotely parallel to the ground, it's a 2-minute. Unless it's Brendan Gallagher's back, then you can break your stick on him and not worry. It is weird.
Right across his nose too.
Oh yeah, bust his jaw, no problem. Who gives a shit, right? It's Brendan Gallagher. It's like it's a double standard. It's just, and I agree. Why does he face that added scrutiny versus other players? He hasn't stepped out of line. He hasn't done a Tom Wilson level incident. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
I'm just happy that we had that TSN 5G view of Gallagher's ass in the crease so we can all see how close that actually was. But I agree with Matt. Like, Anderson didn't take that space. He was already set when the shot was taken. It's not like he was trying to go up in the blue paint to try to make himself bigger or anything to stop that shot. It was already going to go through anyway, and it's pretty controversial, and it really just kind of took the wind out of the Canadian sails, and well, we know what happened after that.
Yeah, he was set for the shot. He would have made the save had it not been for the tip.
Yeah.
And scoring that was going to be the first power play goal for the Canadians all year.
Yeah.
And it would have opened the scoring, giving them a lead for the first time since the first game of the season. It just, all these things, and then they call it back, and you can tell on the bench they all deflated.
Oh yeah.
And
so did the arena.
Yeah. But the team is so fragile. The psyche on the team right now is so fragile that alone was enough to kind of slump the shoulders. And it took a lot of wind out of their sails in that game.
Yeah, it was the last thing they needed. And go figure, that's what happens to a team in a slump of this magnitude. And, we can argue back and forth about what the issues are, coaching or defense or GM or whatever. But right now, above all, like you mentioned, Blaine, it's the psyche, the confidence, it's a very fragile group, and there are other issues, but right now I think that is the main one. Above all, just everyone just seems snake bitten, and there's no confidence. It's hard to watch, especially after the run and all the fun they had just a few months ago,
And you can tell by looking at social media, the fans' expectations were sky high for this season. They may not have been really saying it, but their reaction to what's going on right now kind of sells that expectation. They made the cup final, and everyone seems to have that thing in the back of their head that they should do it again. And then you have this slow start, and they just get even more angry. It's over the top angry over a 4-5 start.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, only happened one other time in team history, and they made the playoffs that year.
Time to repeat history then.
Just don't go 0-6 tonight against the Red Wings.
Oh my God. Yeah. And we haven't had that much success against them the last couple of years either. So
yeah, we were completely winless last year against them.
Yeah. So yeah. Fingers crossed we can break that spell.
Yeah, that's the hope. And another hope is they don't burn the city down if they lose, because my mom lives there, and she doesn't want to move. So you burn her house, she's pretty much done. I don't know. I agree that the leadership and the team's psyche is the biggest issue of the whole thing. And
it's a short-term issue though.
It can be. Yeah. Ducharme went on the record yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but basically, you guys say whatever it is you want to say on the outside. We only care about what's being said here on the inside of the room. Essentially, we only care about what we think, not what you think. And I think it's pretty early in the season for a coach to have to come out and say that. Yeah. Like, it's only 5 games. There's 77 games left. and he's
Yeah.
already building those walls to create an us versus them.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
And
feeling the pressure.
they are, because the them
Yeah.
isn't the other teams in the league. Them is the fans and the media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's a shame this is a team that always has to fight that, eh? It's like, God forbid we have a roster that can just be the better team on most nights, and then not have to worry about it's been a while since we've had that.
yeah. Yeah. And I want to get into what's missing, but I just want to point out that despite everything that's going on this season, the fans have not thrown in the towel or thrown any jerseys on the ice, unlike other teams.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a disgrace to even to do it to a Leafs jersey. We can make jokes, but that's a storied franchise too, just a couple pegs down from us, obviously. But I don't know. I've never understood the whole throwing the jersey on the ice. I find it very disrespectful to all the players that have, worn it in the past, despite whatever team you've been on. I mean, hockey players sacrifice so much of themselves to play the sport, to entertain us. So, and especially for I'm proud that our fan base isn't, prone to do that on a whim, especially in today's society when, everyone's looking for attention, and that's an easy way to kind of get it,
Yeah. And what message are you sending the team? Also, you know how expensive those damn things are?
Yeah.
Like, how much money do you have to be throwing a $300 jersey over the glass from 7 rows out? That guy, They got pictures of him from 7 rows out.
Oh
So
my
anyone
God.
who's saying that there's no pitching in Toronto is wrong. Like, that guy's got an arm.
Yeah, put him in the bullpen.
That's right. You got in the next Jays ace right there.
Yeah.
They could use some. They could use some.
Yeah, give it to a kid who can't afford it. Seriously, I never had jersey growing up.
And the people burning jerseys and all that shit.
Oh, that's even worse.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Just send it to Goodwill, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Now, back to the season at hand. If we look at the standings right now, it's still early in the year. You'll notice that the 4 NHL semifinalists are all at the bottom of their divisions with a combined record of 4 wins, 12 losses, and a tie. And the 4 current division leaders all lost in the first round of the 2021 playoffs. I mean, there's something to be said about getting proper rest and recovery and training in an off season. So I'm going to put some of the blame, some, not all, on that shortened off season for the Canadians. But there is a lot more to why the Canadians are 0-5. We talked about the leadership and their psyche. But Matt, what else do you think it could be?
I love that you bring that up, because it's a fair point. The rest and recovery we had, especially in this off season, it was extremely short for the teams who went the furthest. Now Tampa doesn't seem to be being affected by it too much, but yeah, for me the main issue is the way that the decor is constructed. And as much as I want to point blame somewhere, it's hard to when Shea Weber all of a sudden his career is over. I don't know if the playoff run contributed to that and made that kind of process speed up and have him injured more than even Bergevin knew. So it's hard to point blame for it. And then Edmondson's really unfortunate family situation. So, but to me, that's the big thing. But even past that, even with Weber in the lineup in Edmonton too, there's the Canadians have a clear philosophy of who they want on their back end. And it's, it got us to a cup final. So what can you say? But there's not many Shea Webers in the league anymore. Like essentially none. Like he was kind of an outlier and a really, really good one. So it's going to be really hard to reconstruct a decor like that and have success, especially if you have a forward group that is loaded with shooters and lack playmakers. There's Drouin and Suzuki who are, main playmakers. The rest of the guys are finishers. So that means you need to have someone on your back end Normally that'd be Petry, and I don't know what's going on with him right now. He's a shell of his former self. Maybe the rest and recovery is a big part of that for him. But so when your only guy that can really make a play from the back end is struggling mightily, and a typical six defenseman in Wideman looks better than him, you're going to struggle, So I'm not sure how soon the problems will rectify themselves until we get a legitimate, 30 to 40 point producing defenseman added to this top four on the left side, and they're hard to come by.
Yeah, they are. That's been something I've been kind of banging the drum on for about 3-4 years. Well, since they started this new reset. For Petry, I think he's trying to do too much. He's got that.
Yeah.
He's got that missing step. I agree, but I think he's trying to take on too much, and it's counterintuitive. But doing too much means he's not doing enough. It's just so he's taking on way too much for himself. And I agree, this back end is poorly constructed to make the playoffs. I mean, the NHL, the way it's made now, you need defensemen who can get the puck up ice quickly, especially because, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of playmakers up front. So who's going to feed the puck to these forwards who can shoot? And with with most offenses now, you need that fourth player coming in on the rush as a trailer to create that odd man situation. So the Canadians have Petry, who can do that, Wideman to a limited extent, and they're hoping Romanov can get there. He's not there yet.
Yeah.
Kulak can at times, but it's hit or
Very
miss.
inconsistent. Yeah.
But for the most part, this blue line is built to bruise people and punish them if they come near the net. And the problem is they're letting too many people near the net. So it's hurting them in the regular season, but come playoff time, when they can get away with all those extra chops and cross checks, they're fine. But they got to get there first.
Yeah. And I'll say Weber, as much as he got credit for the shutdown defense and the shot, and I'm a big fan of him. Even I think I undervalued his puck moving ability. It wasn't something that you'd be in awe of, but it was efficient and it was mistake free for the most part. And there were even times, and he could skate the puck up the ice, and he often didn't get credit for that. He really helps his forwards receive the puck in ideal situations where they still had a little time and space to move ahead. So they don't have that reliability back there anymore.
He was very, very good at picking out the highest percentage play. If he had an open passing lane, he took it. If he had a lane to carry it up ice, he took that. But if he didn't have either, he would do the easy chip and out, but he would chip it to areas where the forwards can get to for the most part. So, and he would always keep himself in the best defensive positioning. So if there's a turnover up at the opposite blue line, he was ready. It's that chess level thinking when he was playing defense on the ice. That's what's missing. It was an extra level as compared to pretty much most other defensemen. Like he was a star in that type of thinking process.
It's been a treat to watch him play the last few years in Montreal, to be honest, despite the regular seasons being up and down, but especially that playoff run, it was a treat. And it's a shame that, I know, kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's a shit. Remember the year that I think Winnipeg made the Eastern Conference Final? I think that's as far as they got. Might have even only been the second round. And the big story was how great of a leader Blake Wheeler was. Where was that for Shea Weber? Nowhere to be found. It's just a shame. And he's one of the league's best defensemen in the last, decade. It is what it is, but it's a shame. Any other jersey he'd be wearing, he'd be praised up and down.
Yeah, it's true. I think he's completely underappreciated in the role that he has had, not just in Montreal, but in Nashville.
I think the Canadians fan base definitely appreciate him, but outside the league, or outside the league, outside the Canadians organization, he was just another defenseman.
Unless you talk about
I'm glad you say that, man. Yes.
So, so there's definitely a problem with a lack of puck movement from the decor. Another thing I'm noticing is a lack of finish so far this season. I know we talked about the psyche, we talked about the leadership, but I think the players are playing with they're playing on edge. They're tight, their grips are too tight on their stick, and they don't have that finish. Like, you look at the power play, except for that one goal that was scored, they're getting some puck movement, but the shots aren't quite there. And you look at Caulfield, who's on there, and he's ringing them off posts, or he's flubbing the pass reception. I think the players are overthinking, which ties into the psyche. What do you think?
Yeah, it's and a lot of just trying to pick corners and fucking firing the puck, far and wide at the glass. I couldn't, but like that San Jose game, I couldn't believe it, man. Like, so many pucks, just like not even close. And it kind of continued into the Carolina game as well. But yeah, these guys will figure it out over time. I'm not too worried. Like, I actually really like the forward group, and I know that down the middle takes a bit of a, take some criticism, but I don't mind it there either. I think it's manageable, with Suzuki's having a bit of a hard time with the transition with Danault out, but even Jake Evans at third line C, I think is fine for now, as long as we can find a fourth line guy. But yeah, it's definitely an issue, the shooting. Yeah, I'm curious to what Matt thinks.
I just think that it's just in a whole, like the team is just they're just trying to, it seems like they're trying to do too much in roles that I'm not gonna say they shouldn't be in, but like we talked about Petry, and it just seems that they're putting him in every situation, and they're trying to fill that void that's been left by Weber, and by the void right now that his defensive partner, he doesn't have his defensive partner in Edmonton. So he's playing in every situation, and he's not being put in positions where he's going to succeed. He's getting every face off, and he's getting all the minutes. Same thing as a guy like Christian Dvorak, who has come in, new organization, new coaching, new everything. And right now he's averaging almost 20 minutes a game. And this is someone that they're expecting him to drive offense because they haven't touched his line since training camp. But then at the same time, well, every time that we need a defensive zone face-off, you're going to be on the ice. And in my opinion, he's done well. He's over 55% in face-offs. He's doing what he needs to do, and that's always been an issue with the Canadians. When it comes to Caulfield, everyone came out this year and said this is the favorite to win the Calder. So I'm wondering maybe if that's maybe on his shoulders a little bit, but he's getting his looks. However, the looks that he's getting are self-driven. It's not that he's getting the puck fed to him in a situation where he's going to really be able to rip it into the net. It's a second or third effort level from him that's leading to these, or it's a surprise shot at the goaltender where he's going to ring it off the post. It's frustrating because you really wanted to see these young guys take that next step, especially a guy like Caulfield. And so far, it's just Blaine brought up just being the ability to take a pass. And we've seen a few players come back into this season and be able to take that next step and show a little bit of drive. I've loved what I've seen from Drouin so far, other than the last game, a few turnovers here and there, but Drouin's looked good, and I'm very happy for him. And I think as a whole, I think the organization and the NHL, we've seen players from opposing teams come up to him, give him a tap on the shin pads and everything, and say, welcome back. I've liked what I've seen from a guy like Anderson. He's been driving to the net. He hasn't really taken anything off. It's just a group as a whole. Like, we've talked about leadership on the shows. We've talked about psyche now on this show. We've talked about defensive pairings. This is still mostly the team, barring a few pieces. You look at the offensive group that got you to the cup final. And slowly these pieces are going to come back. We're going to get Edmondson back when everything's going to be good at home for him with his family situation, with his father. Carey Price eventually will come back. And obviously that's a huge, for me, that's the psyche as in the team. It's not having that cornerstone player, not having that safety net behind you that you can take that extra step and maybe make the extra play that maybe you wouldn't usually do if you didn't have Carey Price in net, because you know he's going to be back there to save for. So I'm staying optimistic. And you look at some of the fan base, and you look at some of the fan bases of other teams that are kind of poking fun at the Canadians right now, saying Ducharme should be fired, or Bergevin should be fired, or it's time to make a trade, or it's time to do this. It's 5 games into the year, and when it comes to Ducharme, they just gave him a new contract. He just went to the Cup final. It's not going to happen. So anyone listening right now thinking that that's going to happen, unless they, maybe go 2025, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. It's not going to happen right now. And with the group that you have is the one you're going to die with right now. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Now, with on Price, I know Jake Allen's doing an admirable job in net.
He is.
The scores would be a lot higher against if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
But I think a big difference that we're seeing right now in the play for Jake Allen versus Carey Price is that puck handling ability.
Yeah.
When other teams do dump ins, Price gets that puck and he can move it up ice like a third defenseman.
Yeah.
He's elite in that aspect of his game. Whereas Jake Allen, he can handle the puck well, but he does not have that same ability. And that makes a difference, especially with a defense that lacks the mobility that the Canadiens defense has.
Yeah. I was thinking this the other day when we talked about the Seattle expansion draft, and obviously Price was exposed so they could keep Allen. Just imagine if Allen would have went and then Price would have had to take this time off, which by all means he deserves it. But just imagine if he would have lost both of those goalies right off the fly.
Geez, the team would be 0-5 right now.
Right. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be, you think it would be that much worse.
Yeah, I think instead of a 5-0 loss, it'd be 10-0 losses.
Right. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So
I love everything you said there, Matt. It was something you mentioned about Caulfield and having to be the guy to put in that effort. It's not him getting the puck. He's having to put in the effort to make his own plays. And I think that's kind of rings true for the whole forward group, even the power play goal the other night. It was a broken play that was generated by the forwards only. Then there was a play from Dvorak to Drouin, forwards only. And then there was, I think, again, all the plays I find it's just all forward driven, because they're not, as much as our D-corps can't move the puck up the ice, they also struggle with being complementary in the O zone as well.
Well, let's talk quickly about the defense on the power play. It seems that it doesn't matter if it's a 4-on-3, a 5-on-3, everything seems to be driven back to Jeff Petry. And it's either the shot on the net, like a slap shot somewhere around the center of the blue line, or it's he'll skate around and he'll get a shot on net. And Petry's got a good shot. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
However, when you've got, say, Hoffman on one side, or you've got Suzuki, who's got a very good shot himself, you've got Caulfield, etc., and you've got guys waiting and willing to shoot, puck's not going there.
Yeah, and as much as I don't mind if Jeff Petry shoots the puck, but at the same time, at least have it be a play. Don't just hold it at the blue line and take a there's a quality shot, and then there's shooting just to shoot. Yeah, right? But when you've got, like you said, when these guys are open, you gotta pass it around a bit. You got to get the penalty killers moving, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. And I want to hope that the coaching staff isn't, on the bench saying, okay, guys, feed Petry. He's going to shoot, crash the net, because that would be like, I mean, I maybe, but I don't know.
You'd swear to God that in their planning sessions, they still have Weber's name there. They just put a line through it, put Petry over top because
it seems that way.
Yeah.
it seems like the whole plan is to get a one-timer or a slap shot from the blue line. And this isn't 1993 anymore. You gotta get puck movement. You got to make them open up their box a little bit. And you got to get some guys down at the goal line, right in front of the net.
Yeah. Just tuck your ass. Just tuck your ass in.
Just tuck your ass out of the blue.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're right, Matt. They've got
Pass-through
shooters
seams,
galore.
like, take a risk. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass
Through a
one
seam.
play.
Like it's all perimeter. Like,
Yeah. Now there was one play that I saw. I think it was against the San Jose Sharks, where they had Sherratt on the power play, which, don't get me wrong, it should never happen. But he made a play where he took a shot and missed the net on purpose to create that puck coming out from behind the net. And it looked like it was pretty close to creating a chance, but there was no one there in front able to take advantage of that. It's stuff like that. If you're going to take shots from the blue line all the time, try different things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, the power play overall has definitely been uninspiring. And what's crazy, it was points during the preseason where it looked good and they were moving the puck quick and they were keeping their feet moving and all that stuff. But yeah, right now it's frustrating. And then you watch other teams and it's like, my God, and they make it look easy, all of it.
Well, some of the goals that have been scored so far against Montreal, while they're on the penalty kill, I've kind of said, I hope somebody on the bench is taking notes that this is how you move the puck. This is how you get it to the shooters. This is how, this is how you set up. This is how you get over the blue line, etc. Right?
There was one I saw, I was watching a game. It might've been Boston or something. And literally it was like a tic-tac-toe play of seam passes through traffic. And it was like, try that.
Yeah.
Like, my God, they're not even trying. It's not like they're throwing passes through the middle of the ice and they're getting picked off. They're just not trying.
Yeah.
Because what's the worst that could happen? It'll go off a foot, maybe go on net, do it. But I think part of the reason their power play isn't clicking correctly is they're playing it safe. They're not, most other teams take their 5 best assets offensively and put them on the ice. Do that. Take 5 forwards, for God's sakes. Throw them out there. Drouin, Suzuki, Dvorak, Caulfield, Hoffman. Throw them all out there. Give it a try. Yeah. You might be surprised by how well they can move the puck and maybe get some shots on net.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. They're always going to have at least one defenseman back there. And I'm not going to say anything bad about Weidman. He's picked up one.
He's been okay.
Goal, right? He's been okay. He hasn't been incredible, especially defensively, but is what it is. They're always going to have at least one defenseman on there. And if he wasn't there, it'd be Romanov. And if it wasn't Romanov, it'd be Kulak, etc. Right.
Yeah.
And you could start going down the line. Like it would get to the point where, David Savard would be out there eventually. Right. It's how they go. They're not going to ever get away from that. At least 4 forwards and a defenseman.
There's also a trickle down effect when you have a power play that is putrid. You don't give any incentive to the other team to not overplay you or be overly aggressive.
Oh, they just need to stand there because they know they're not going to move. So why should they move?
No, but I mean, at the 5-on-5, when they're playing 5-on-5, you got the other team is going to take liberties.
100%
to check you and take you out of the play or do things to take it, create little advantages along the boards, which could lead to penalties, but they don't care if they take a penalty because your power play sucks.
Yes, it's going to be a momentum killer anyway.
Which also trickles down to when they're doing that, the Canadians have to step their game up, but they can't right now because they're so fragile that they start taking undisciplined penalties, which leads to their penalty kill coming on the ice, which right now is absolute garbage.
It is. It's awful.
So it's just a comedy of errors. It's burying them.
Yeah. Well, right now they're missing 2 of their best penalty killers. in Weber and Edmondson. And I found that last year, Edmondson really allowed Jeff Petry's game to go to the next level. We knew Jeff Petry was a good defenseman, but then he was paired with somebody that didn't need to be flashy. He just played his own game. And hell, you can even say the same thing about Ben Sherratt. Sherratt was a better defenseman when he was with Shea Weber. And there's a lot of people out there that hate Ben Sherratt, but during playoff runs, he's been solid defensively when he's needed to be.
Now, the Canadians tonight, we're recording, it's the 23rd of October. It's the morning. We have not seen the pregame skate or the lines. I'm gonna give you the question, Matt, because you're our guest. Do you expect any lineup changes for tonight's game against the Detroit Red Wings?
I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to see Jake Evans back with Gallagher and Toffoli. I think that's where who he was with last. But yeah, and it's kind of a mystery where Cole is fitting now in this forward group. It's a shame because he is, one of our most dynamic offensive players. But they made a few changes there for the last one, and they made the changes on defense, which were refreshing. They actually had puck movers. They balanced it out. It was shut down D with guys who could actually skate. So hopefully that stays the same. They had Savard and Romanov and Kulak and Petry, right? And then what was the other one? Sherratt and Weidman. Yeah. So I like that. I mean,
Sherratt skated with Petry yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe. Yeah, that's right. I did see that.
So and then Sammy Niku was in as well. He looks like he's likely going to be in.
Is he replacing Weidman? Because if he is,
that's what it looks like. Yeah.
I don't see how that changes the dynamic of this blue line at all.
I'm not sure either. I think they're just trying to get a fresh leg in if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, defensively, there's been some mishaps, but you're going to have that with Niku as well. And Weidman, I thought, has been one of our only guys, moving the puck around well on the power play. So it'd be a shame to see him out of the lineup. I mean, he was the one who scored the goal with Gallagher there that got called back.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I'm not quite sure what to expect with these lineups, but I just hope we see a better effort tonight. More urgency to get to the net. That's been an issue too. And the guys having fun out there, and communicating a bit more. They were doing a lot of communicating early in the season, and then when your head gets out of the game, you kind of just go into your shell.
Yep.
Like to see them, chatting a bit more on the bench and hearing them yell out on the ice and whatnot. So
yeah, it's mostly slumped heads on the bench.
Yeah.
Every time we get it doesn't matter how the game's going. It's just there's no conversation. There's no, as you said, there's nothing from the bench. There's no cheering. There's no anything. It's just I go out and do my shift. I sit down. Okay, I'm going to go out and do my shift again, and that's it.
Yeah, and if it doesn't go our way, get the frustration out on the ice. Don't bitch to the media afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't give them any more ammunition. Essentially, is what you need to do. But I don't know. It's a Saturday night in Montreal. The home crowd should be pretty. They'll be on edge, and if you can get something early in the game, a big hit like an Anderson breakaway, something, get them in there, and then just. You win a shift. I think what this comes down to is the Canadians need to come out with a strong shift to start the game and then build from there. Gain confidence in these little victories. You don't win the game in the first 5 minutes. So build up your confidence.
You can lose it in the first 5 minutes. We know that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just these little things if you can get the crowd in early, and get them chanting or singing or dancing. Anything but that pin drop Toronto sound. It's just you don't want to sound like you're at the ACC where there's no sound at all. You want the fans.
We might actually have a chance tonight. No Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you put yourself above the team. You can't be in all the games.
Yeah, exactly. And he's always been a pain in our side. I was hoping we'd actually land him, but Detroit did the right thing and got him locked up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
They're overpaying him for the 40 games he's going to play.
Yeah, seriously. My God, man.
Now, it's not like Detroit's not is missing too much. I mean, they got Maurice Seider, they've got Dylan Larkin, so Nedeljkovic in net. They've got a decent team. They're definitely better than they were the 2 years ago when the Canadians were 0-4 against them. So it's not like it's going to be an easy game.
No,
But
no.
this is definitely one of those games that they had circled on their calendar before the season saying, we have to win these.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm sure the game against Buffalo was probably the same thing. They're probably like, we need points here, we need points here, and they get blown out.
Yeah.
So,
but if they can pull off a win tonight,
well, it's gonna give the fan base something to cheer about. It's gonna give us something positive to talk about. It's just gonna be, and it's certain players that I like to see get going. Like we saw the kind of the relief in the eyes of Toffoli the other night when he scored that goal. I think if you see a guy like Anderson pot one or Dvorak pot one, especially a guy like Caulfield, if he puts his first, and then it's just like off the bat, or Suzuki even, you come off of signing a big contract like that, you've got those people that are saying, well, look how much we're paying you going into next year, and what have you done for me so far?
Well, Toffoli's he's a streaky goal scorer. So
Yes.
Do you guys expect a big game from him tonight?
Toffoli?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he started the season really, he's chasing the game, just really struggling, but so is everyone else. So yeah, I'm hoping to see a big game from everybody. I mean, I'm sick and tired of getting embarrassed on Hockey Night in Canada. It's happened way too much the last couple of years. So let's have a good night here and allow this team to put the slump in the rear view and just focus on the right things moving forward.
Well, the good news on that is at least we know that all the highlights and the talk and the intermissions is going to be about Toronto and not Montreal.
Yeah.
Traditionally speaking.
Could be 10-0 Montreal, and it would still be like, so Toronto's in a nothing tie right now. And
yeah, I'm sure we'll hear a lot about Zach Hyman tonight.
Oh yeah.
I'm loving what's going on there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nothing against it. He's playing great right now.
He is.
That's the thing.
He is.
Yeah.
It's a shame they didn't have the money to keep him.
Yep.
Oh man. But with the Canadians and tonight's lineup, I'm really hoping to see on Suzukis Line, because I know that the Dvorak line is doing well. They've played well pretty much every game. They've had some shifts where they've been missing, but for the most part, that's been the best line. With Suzuki's line tonight, what I want to see is more support with Suzuki. You've noticed he's always up ice and he's by himself, completely alone. It's just him and four defenders. I'd like to see a little bit more support where the winger is up ice with him. If they can get that, then we'll start seeing Suzuki getting more opportunity to create, because it's hard to create offense when you're by yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking last night, maybe, they haven't split up Dvorak, Drouin, and Anderson. And I don't think you should split up Dvorak and Drouin. I think those two players, like if once they gain enough chemistry, they can be a very solid duo together. But Josh Anderson isn't necessarily a player who's gonna, support you a whole lot on the cycle. Like he's got a very specific set of tools. Like he's very fast, he can forecheck hard, and he can shoot. And, that might actually benefit Caulfield and Suzuki a bit more than, Armia does, or Toffoli, or what have you.
We saw it during the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? We saw it during the playoffs. It gave them some space.
Yeah, exactly. And that might be good for a couple smaller guys like Caulfield and Suzuki. And I'm sure you can find someone who can efficiently play with Dvorak and Drouin. There's plenty to choose from.
You could put Gallagher in there. You got a guy that's defensive.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And he can do that work down low as well. So, But hoping for a good one tonight. And I also just want to touch on something else Matt said quite a bit earlier, the coaching stuff and the firing of staff at this point. I agree again, like it's just not going to happen. You mentioned it. The contract of Dom has just started. And I personally believe like there's not, the flaws are with the roster. And as much as I want to blame Bergevin, there's things that have happened that are out of his control. And he's in the last year of his deal. So why rush, getting rid of him now and starting that process of finding someone else in the middle of the season? So I think Bergevin's here to stay for the year, and Dom as well. So the answer has to be within the room. Whether it is in the room is, yet to be seen, but hopefully they take that step forward tonight.
Yeah, well, this is the time that somebody in the lineup, and we've talked about leadership multiple times throughout the season, and this is a time where these new leaders need to emerge. Whether it's Gallagher, like we already know the leadership that Gallagher has, and he's a guy that a lot of people thought or they're thinking he's probably going to be the next captain of this team. But it's going to take more than just Gallagher to do that rough play or to score the big goal or to throw a hit or anything like that to get this team going. There needs to be more within this group. And if it's just a guy on each line, whatever it takes, someone's going to have to do something. And it can't just be, oh, we didn't score on the power play, let's slump our heads and lose 5-0, right?
And Gallagher's style is raw, follow me, look what I'm doing type of, he's that type of leader from the pointy end of the sphere. But there needs to be other types of leadership step up. You need people in the room who are going to step up and say something. And it's people that normally don't say much. It's when you get that voice that rarely gets used in a room, but says something important.
Yeah.
That's the kind of leadership they're missing right now.
Yeah.
So someone's going to step in. I mean, I know they've given Suzuki an A, and they're grooming him because he is the future 1C of the franchise. They want him to be the face of the Canadians for years to come. So he's going to have to learn. He's not there yet, but he's learning. I know you covered a little bit.
Dvorak could be one of those guys.
Yes.
But that'd be hard for a new guy, Eventually he can take that role, but as a new guy, that'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah. But he's a veteran, and he's the guys know who he is. They've played against him in junior or the NHL. So
yeah,
maybe. Now I know you covered a little bit of this on one of your videos, I think just last night's or the night before, but after the Carolina loss, the Hurricanes decided to post didthehabslose.com as a joke.
Yeah.
Now, and the joke got turned on them because a Canadians fan, I'm assuming it's a Canadians fan, went and bought that domain name and then posted and is using it to post stuff about the Hurricanes, saying the Hurricanes suck, just spreading the truth to a bunch of, it's copyrighted, but you get it, and mocking their sponsors and just making fun of everything that they're doing on social media. So I think that's kind of fun. You want to play that jerk game on social media? Well, someone just one-upped you.
Yeah. I mean, go figure. Don Cherry had to run his mouth a couple of years ago, and this is the result we get is the Carolina Hurricanes trolling for the next 3 years. But they've got one up on us now for sure. It's unfortunate, but but yeah, that was kind of weird, eh? Like, I'm not sure why they didn't buy that domain for at least a week following the game. They'd let it.
They spent that $20 on Kotkaniemi.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's a pretty desperate franchise. I mean, they're doing whatever they can do to get fans, but I guess that's what you got to do in today's society. That troll marketing crap,
which is pretty sad when you take out all that bullshit that they're posting online. The team itself is a good team.
Yeah.
So
no one's talking about that. No one's talking about them as a team, though.
No, that's the problem. They're a good hockey team.
So they are. They've got some great young players. However, it's the bullshit, and for me, it kind of deters me from wanting to watch them play, because I'm like, I don't want to support a franchise that does that kind of shit.
Yeah, and then that's
how I see it.
But then you contrast that to the Canadian social media, which is 50 shades of beige.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can show a little, like there's a happy medium here.
Yeah.
Show some personality, but don't be an ass about it.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of like when the Canadians post some stuff,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we just got our asses handed to us. And then they're like, oh, here's a conversation about our favorite things or whatever. It's like, why the hell you posted this now? Right? Right?
I know. All right. So let's play the prediction game. We'll start with Smitty here. What do you expect tonight's game going to end up as?
Canadians are going to get their first win of the year.
Ooh, bold prediction.
Somehow they're going to grind one out. Honestly, I'm hoping for one of those big blowout offensive games. Don't really expect it, but I'm thinking a close one. I'll go with 3-1 for the Canadians tonight. Maybe an empty netter.
What you, Matt?
I'm a bit of a weirdo. I'm a bit of a superstitious. I don't do predictions, but I'll tell you a little story. The one and only time I used my Budweiser Goal Light Cup thing was the game we smashed Detroit like 10-1 or whatever. And I'm sitting there the whole game trying to sync it with the timing. And the thing kept going off. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, there's no way we scored another one. Boom, there's the goal. I was like, what? So maybe I should use that tonight.
Why aren't you using?
Yeah, fans listening are like, why haven't you just only used that?
Yeah.
This 4 goal in 5 games is your fault, is what you're telling us.
Yeah. No Budweiser Light.
Oh my God. Did you have to drink Budweiser to get that?
I don't know. I think someone gave it to me actually.
Oh, good.
And I went to use it, the app on the phone and the thing, and I was like, you can like delay it and set the timing of it, and it kept going off, and I'm like, what is going on with this? Like, why? And they just kept, it was like a 10-1 game or something like that. I couldn't believe it.
As long as you didn't have to drink Budweiser to get it, I think that's fine.
Yeah, no.
Oh my
I'll definitely
God.
pass on that shit.
Stick to the Keats, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. So I think that pretty much does it for the show. Any final
What's your prediction,
thoughts?
Blaine?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going all in. They're going to win, and it's going to be 3-1. Gallagher's going to have another goal disallowed. He's going to be cross-checked in the back and fall into the goalie as he's scoring, and they call it back for interference. But the team comes back and scores one on the very next shift anyway. And Gallagher will be on the bench screaming at the ref after the goal scored. That's my prediction. All right. So any final thoughts, Matt Smith?
Just quick, the Canadian Olympic team has to start throwing their forwards and their defense and their goalies and everything together for their 55 NHL players who could make the roster. Carey Price was named to it. The other goalies being Jordan Bennington, Darcy Kemper, Mackenzie Blackwood, Carter Hart, and Marc-Andre Fleury. And they gave Carey Price an exemption, because usually you only have 5 goalies that are named, but the Olympic Committee, I guess, they gave him an exemption just because of what he's going through right now with the NHL Player Assistance Program. So he's one of the group. I'd
love to see him back on Team Canada for one more run, but with what's going on, we'll have to wait and see. But might be the year that Marc-Andre Fleury finally gets the opportunity I think he deserves to be the guy.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think Price will make if he's back.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the 3, 100%.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And we'll see how Fleury's doing in Chicago, because right now it's not really working out.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's his fault. For my final thought, I think, sticking with predictions, this is going to be a transition year for the Canadians. We didn't expect world beaters or anything, but personally, I am watching this season and not really. upset. I mean, if they make the playoffs, that's great. They have a team that could do something in the first, maybe even a second round. But if they miss and they get a lottery pick, this is a very good draft year
It
that
is.
they're hosting. So you get that high pick. I think that'll improve the team in the long run. So for me, I think it's a good time to have a transition year. So that's my final thought on this show. Matt, what's yours?
I would have loved to see the transition year be next year, and the Canadians have an opportunity to draft Mr. Connor Bedard, but that's for another day. It's been tough. 0-5. My last video was extremely negative and over the top and uncensored, and
I loved it.
Very pessimistic. And that's not me. It was actually really hard to be in that state, but I feel like, I kind of had to represent the feelings of a lot of the fan base right now. But there is part of me that, knows that this team will turn it around for the most part. It's going to be hard though to make the playoffs at this point, digging a hole this early. There's a lot in hindsight after recording that. I felt a little bad because, the team's been through a lot starting the season, with what's gone on with Carey, what's going on with Joel right now, and that puts a lot of pressure on the guys still in the room. And it kind of, I don't want to put blame on the guys that are out for good reason, So, I definitely think this is going to be a transition year. And it might be a good opportunity, with Ben Sherratt 1 year left on his contract to restructure this defense. And hopefully maybe a Jordan Harris can come in next year or Norlinder or maybe Gooley, and kind of change the face of the decor, because the forward group's kind of set for the long term. And the other thing, it might be a good opportunity to allow the kids on this team, the younger kids, to make mistakes and not punish them for it. Just let them go out there and be confident and try things and get comfortable with the time and space they have in the NHL. We haven't really, as much as I love the, compete while you're building philosophy to, promote that winning culture and not promote, the acceptance of losing, it's hard to, it's hard to allow guys to develop in the NHL. And that the NHL is not a development league, but have been teams who've used it to develop their players, and it's worked out for them. So, it'll all work out in the end. I'm quite confident in that, and I'm still quite confident in the mid and long term future for this team.
From your lips to God's ears. So for our listeners, Matt, can you tell them where they can find you and even maybe buy some of your merchandise?
So I'm on, the normal socials, right? But YouTube's where I put all my work, and that's where all my effort goes into. I troll a bit on Twitter. That's, Twitter's a bit of a joke. So I kind of, make a joke of myself on there too. So, YouTube is where it's at, Scotian Canadian. And if you want a shirt, feel free to message me. I got plenty sitting over here in the office. So
perfect. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. We love having you on here, fellow Haligonian. We need to, support each other. I think far too many podcasters or content creators think it's a competition when it really isn't. We're just a community. We're helping each other out. We're sharing each other's ideas and work. I think we're better off when we do that.
Yeah. And a lot of a good portion of our viewers and listeners, I feel, are the same,
Yeah.
Maybe some aren't, but there's a good portion of them that are the same. And I think they enjoy when we collaborate like this. And it's been a blast to chat with you guys again. And I'm hoping that I can get you guys in the studio here. So at some point, Matt, if you're back in Nova Scotia and we can get all three of you in here at the same time, I think that'd be really cool. Yeah.
Maybe Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe Christmas. Yeah.
Maybe after we all head over to Bubba Ray's, have a few wets.
Love it.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for coming on, Matt. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come shoot the breeze with us. And for our listeners, I want to thank you for listening. And remember, when you were talking about it, so are we.